Hello, my name is Dr. David Plerday. I'm the founder of the Plerday Institute and the author of a book called Solving the Weight Loss Puzzle. Today I have a dear friend and client of mine named Chuck Miller as our guest. Chuck, thanks so much for coming
Thanks
in,
for having
man.
me, Dave.
Pleasure to have you. You were generous enough for me to tell your story in the book. Mm-hmm. And you're in the chapter we entitled, Everything You Think You Know About Exercise is Wrong. And so there's some backstory, and we're going to get to that. But I thought we could start about the pain in your life prior to coming into the program. I talk about my own experience with pain in the first chapter, but would you be willing to share with the readers
Sure.
and our audience about your story of pain prior to the program?
Absolutely. Well, as you know, I had an injury about 4 years ago, a major injury where I had ruptured my bicep helping a woman in a car off an off-ramp. But prior to that, I had about 30 years of what I call the typical treadmill of life and working out. I would work out very hard during the week, cardio as well as weightlifting, and then pretty much give it all back on the weekend with overeating, over drinking, partying, all of that thing. And then the typical Monday, Tuesday would be starvation or, cutting way back and go through that entire cycle again. So that persisted for a long time. And then I had an injury where I wasn't able to do any type of working out for about 3 to 4 months, started getting soft, started putting some weight on. And then when I was actually able to start working out, I went as hard as I possibly could. I was joining a high intensity interval training group. I also was working out 5-6 days a week with weights, and found myself not only thoroughly exhausted, sore all the time, but my appetite was through the roof. And I just ate anything to satisfy that, and none of it probably good. I would work out in the morning, just be thoroughly exhausted, starving, and on my way to work I may grab an Egg McMuffin and a regular muffin and an energy drink, and none of this stuff was good. So after about 4 or 5 months of this cycle, I just hit a breaking point and had known what you had done for a long time and reached out to you and just said, I need help. What's going on with my body? I keep training harder and getting bigger and bigger and fatter, and just had a big kind of barrel chest and barrel belly that I had never really had before. So that's when I made the call.
That's right. I remember like it was yesterday, you called me on a Monday and you asked me a question, and the question was, do you work with guys like me? So you played college football, you were a defensive back, always a leader. You run a mortgage company. You've been in the residential lending and real estate business for how long?
35 years.
35 years. You've had great success, married to an awesome lady. Shout out to Lisa, and your 2 awesome kids. Life's gone extremely well for you, but this was a source of pain. And it was a source of pain that I think very few people really ever had any idea that you were experiencing. And that
Right.
conversation that we had on that fateful Monday, you were vulnerable and talked about the struggle that you'd been through. We scheduled a time for you to come in for a half-day assessment. We learned a ton of stuff. One of the things that I learned about you is that when you were 18 years old, you only had about 20 pounds of fat on your body. And fast forward to the age of 57, you had 70 pounds of fat. So you essentially gained 50 pounds of fat over the course of your adult life, and that was the point where you had that bicep injury. But we learned some things about your fat cells. Would you care to share about the problem you had with your fat cells? And I can fill in some gaps if you need me to.
Well, not knowing all the technical background of it, as
you
we
had grown
discussed,
new fat cells, right?
we had grown new. I had grown new fat cells, had put that weight on, and it just was a vicious cycle.
Right.
It was getting
estimated-
bigger and bigger, not going the other way with working out.
Exactly. So I had estimated you had just under 17 billion fat cells as an 18-year-old. But as a 57-year-old, you had closer to 30 billion fat cells. And what I learned about you during the assessment is that most of the new fat cells had accumulated in your abdomen internally.
Right.
This had affected your liver function. Could you share about some of your health circumstances with liver function?
Well, I remember even applying for life insurance and having rated life insurance because of elevated
Cholesterol.
liver and cholesterol ratings and findings. So once within a year after going on the Pluridae method, the doctor could not believe how much all of that had dropped.
Right.
I mean, he just was quite amazed in those findings.
So in effect, you had high cholesterol, high triglycerides. I think your fasting blood sugar was elevated. You had a higher A1C. The insurance company had given you feedback that your premiums were going to be higher because you had a higher risk factor.
Right.
Came into the program and we corrected this problem in the fat cell. You had a suppression of an enzyme. That's one of the big ideas in the book, is that there's a mechanism in your fat cell. It's called hormone-sensitive lipase. This little enzyme was in a state of suppression. And so what we know about fat cells, while they're in suppression, they can only get larger. Body fat can only go up. And you continued to grow fat in your abdomen, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse.
Right, absolutely.
So we corrected that problem. How long did that take to reverse that enzyme suppression?
3 days.
Yeah, 3 days. We reactivated the hormone-sensitive lipase, and because your body fat weight is simply the weight of all your fat cells, body fat was going down at a mathematically linear rate. So we were tracking you in the lab, and in the first month of the program, I have it right here, you had lost 26% of your body fat in the first month.
Yeah, I think the most amazing thing to me was I had conversations with you that I had not been under 200 pounds in almost 35 years. And within the first 7 days, I had already lost 11 pounds and had just broken under the 200 pounds. So here it had taken me 30 years of what I thought, I know what I'm doing and I can get fit and lose weight and lose fat. Just had never achieved it, and here I did it in 1 week.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it was incredible.
So we were tracking you, you were having this really extraordinary body fat weight loss that was pretty linear. Again, 26.5% in the first month, you lost 35% in the second month, 18% in the third month. The fourth month was a little choppy, but by January, your body fat had gone from the high point of 70 pounds to 19 pounds. And what had happened to your cholesterol, triglycerides, and fasting blood sugar?
Everything had just stabilized and improved so much. It just was kind of ridiculous. It was shocking to me how good the results came out.
Your body fat came down to 10%. So you were more fit at the age of 60 than when you were 18 years old. How does that make you feel?
Oh, it made me feel great. I mean, I had even shared with you that was going to be a goal to get down to 10% body fat. It's such a mental high to get back to that level and just feeling great. I was never feeling hungry anymore. I wasn't feeling sore from working out. I could buy clothes off the rack, everything. And I literally had quit all gym memberships day one and just work out in my basement.
Which you have an incredible setup. I've seen it. It's
Probably
amazing.
more than most, but that just kind of reinforces what I had before. Not only was I part of clubs, but I also had enough fitness equipment, to supply a club at my house. So working out was my whole life. And I look back and what did I really gain from all of that working out, when now I barely work out and I'm more fit than I was 40 years ago.
Yeah, so to be clear to the readers and to the viewers, exercise isn't hard anymore.
No, it's
And
not hard.
for us guys over 60 years old, man, that's an encouraging thing, right? Because you're not going to have any more overuse injuries. You can train and know that you're not going to hurt yourself.
And just the time alone, not
Right.
having to drive to a gym and spend an hour and a half or 2 hours there and all of those things. It's easy enough just to walk downstairs and go on a treadmill. And my weightlifting has gone from probably an hour and a half a day, 5 days a week in the past, to twice a week, 25 minutes a piece.
So we shared your story, and you were kind enough to let me share it. In the chapter we entitle, Everything You Think You Know About Exercise is Wrong. And I taught you some things about your skeletal muscle, that there are 3 different muscle fiber types. The best and easiest way to explain it is it's like first, second, and third gear. And first gear uses only fat, second gear can switch from fat to sugar, and third gear precludes fat, it only runs on sugar. But all of the exercise you'd been doing was activating third gear, and this was affecting your hunger and your body composition and your health. Would you care to share about that specifically?
Yeah, I mean, the cravings when I was going high intensity interval training just were off the charts. Not only exhaustion, but I think we talked about my body confusing exhaustion with hunger. And with that exhaustion, I would eat to satisfy both the hunger and the exhaustion. And it just became a vicious cycle.
It's incredible. And this was painful for you. I remember that when we first got together in the lab, how emotional it was for you to think, how could I have not known these things? And I'm like, well, dude, I have a PhD. I've been working in a laboratory setting for 30 years. I mean, of course you're not going to know it. You know, you were very hard on yourself, but you know, since you've been through the program and you've maintained this incredible fitness level, it's hard to believe. It's been over 3 years now since we started,
yeah,
right? Wow. So to put a bow on this part of the conversation, exercise and the beliefs that you had about exercise, although you had a lot of experience with being an athlete and training over the years, pretty much everything you thought you knew was wrong.
It was very hard for me to accept emotionally that what have I been doing that has been so wrong, that was not giving me the results that I wanted. And the only way I would get those results is if I trained even harder, and I was going the opposite direction. So when I made that call, it was not only was it difficult, it was embarrassing, and I had to be a little bit vulnerable that I don't know it all. And I remember saying, I need your help. What is going on with my body? And you know, the rest is kind of history, so to speak. But that's the gist of it. Is it's tough to admit that you don't know it all.
You are so right. And you know, I go back to the pain you were feeling when we first started this, and prior to coming into the program, and your willingness to be vulnerable, talking about the struggle and the confusion and the frustration, and it set the tone for a path for you. Where have you ever looked and felt this good in your life?
Not that I can remember. Besides high school and college days, no, I can't recall, and I certainly can't recall ever doing it this easy.
Yeah.
I mean, not having to train so hard and not feel guilty if I miss a day.
Right.
Because I know I'm still watching my intake and you know what foods I'm eating, but I don't have that guilt.
Yeah. Wow. I think our readers and our viewers are going to find a lot of encouragement on the easy part of it, you know, because I think that as we get older, I think that those extreme workouts and regimens are just not an option for us. We just know that our bodies can't tolerate it. So I want to again thank you for your willingness to let me tell your story in the book and to share it in this conversation with
You're
our
welcome.
readers and viewers. So as we wrap up our conversation today, I also want to just chat briefly about another subject. One of the chapters in the book is entitled, Are You Ready to Be Accountable? And I define accountability. The word account means to give a detailed report of what you do, why you do it, and what's happening as a result. And we all know in business that, in accounting, we track the inflow, the outflow, and we separate our expenses and all those kinds of things. But in a weight loss journey, accountability means we record things. I made you record what you were actually doing. And I held you accountable in a very personal way. And how did that aspect of your journey affect you?
Well, in terms of, let's just talk about the daily routine of that. I actually enjoyed it because I was keeping score, and with the data, it made no sense to cheat or lie in the numbers because I'm only affecting, myself.
Right.
I wasn't doing it to impress you or for your benefit. It was solely for my benefit. So just keeping a record of it kept me accountable, notwithstanding the fact that you were already keeping me accountable and checking on that. So I just think it gave me a secondary routine, knowing what I'm doing every day. Now I'm going to monitor it. So the accountability was everything.
Right. There's a business guru named David Drucker, and he's been quoted as saying, "What gets measured gets managed." And there's different versions of that phrase, and there's disparity as to who originally coined it, but I give credit to David Drucker. But measuring things and being tracked made a difference, right? We were measuring your body fat, lean mass, we were measuring metabolism. But I think one of the big ideas about accountability is it doesn't happen between our ears. It happens in relationship. And you were ready to be accountable. So I just want to affirm your example. It's truly an inspiring story. And I think without that accountability piece, you probably wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Well, no, and the other part of it, while I was doing it for myself and the accountability, I didn't want to let myself down, but I also didn't want to let you down, like I'm not listening to you, because I was listening.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
You're
Everything you've said today, everything you shared was spot on. I know our viewers and the readers of the book are going to be inspired by you. As we wrap up our conversation today, I want to ask you to speak to the reader and perhaps the viewer who's not as familiar with the Plur-Day method in solving the weight loss puzzle. But what would you say, and I want you to speak directly to the reader, what would you say to them as they are walking this journey through the book?
Don't be afraid. Take a chance. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be shy. It's not your fault. You don't know everything. It might be tough at first to be vulnerable and say, I need help. But let's face it, not everyone can be good at everything, and you just don't know what you don't know. And taking that first step is a relief. After that initial call or reading the book or whatever, you're going to feel a release and relieved that you're taking that first step.
Thank you, Chuck.
My pleasure.
Fantastic. I appreciate everything you've shared. And I want to thank you, our readers and our viewers. I hope you found Chuck's story to be very encouraging. And I just want to say, keep walking the path, and we've got you. And if you want to, you can reach out to the plurdayinstitute.com if you'd like to be a private client. But also the platform is coming in 2025 called the Plur-Day Method. We're going to have all kinds of cool and free tools, as well as a subscription section on that website. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.